We're here today with Keith Coughlan, Executive Chairman of European Metals Limited, on the back of some very, very exciting news relating to a strategic investment. Can you tell us about it and why is it so important?
Sure, David. So we've taken an investment from a group called the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the EBRD. The very large global financial house grew out of the reunification of Europe in the early 90s, have funded projects in the region up to 170 billion euros over the years, including roughly 3 billion into mining projects. The shareholders of the EBRD are the European Union themselves, the European Investment Bank and member states of the EU. 71 countries are shareholders, including the Czech Republic, which is obviously where our project is. So they're deeply connected with the system in Europe, in Brussels. And this is as much about us looking forward to the full financing of the project going forward than it is about taking a relatively small €6 million placement from the EBRD.
Importantly, one of the comments they made was the amount of due diligence conducted. What sort of due diligence was there and what comfort does it give them and you regarding the project going forward?
Well, the short answer is a very significant amount of due diligence. They've been at the process for a long time. They appointed their own independent mining consultants to help with the due diligence process. And it wasn't just about the mining. They conducted significant ESG due diligence as well. The project has to abide by the principles of EBRD's ESG policies, which are very much in line with everyone else in Europe anyway. So there has been a significant level of DD. And that gives us great comfort, although we've had comfort about the project for some time now, but from the point of view of the message it sends to other parties, other high-level investors. As I say, EBRD is very intimately involved with the process that we will have to go through coming out of the EU banks and the EIB itself. And the fact that they've given the vote of confidence to the project, invested money themselves, I think goes a long way to helping these other institutions get their level of comfort with regards to the project.
Just touching on that, they have invested, they've done their own due diligence, they are a significant financial institution in their own right, but have deep links into other EU financial opportunities?
Yes, that's correct. So there's been a number of public statements this year as we've seen the whole energy transition, battery metals discussion unfold in Europe. There's been numerous public comments from the EBRD and the EIB standing side by side talking about collaboratively funding or helping to fund the energy transition in Europe. So the EU has made statements in the draft of the Critical Raw Materials Act about the level of self-sufficiency that they would like to see in Europe for these metals, the metals required to enable the transition. And EBRD, EIB and others have made it very clear that they're there to support the funding of these projects to bring them into production.
You've touched on the fact they have invested in a significant number of projects in the EU, but this is their first in the lithium space. Do you think that's a key milestone both for the project but also for themselves?
Absolutely, and I think it's a key milestone for the development of lithium projects in Europe as well. In some regards it's not surprising. There are only a limited number of lithium projects in Europe, in the EU. And arguably Cinovec is the most advanced and most likely to come to production in the short term to produce battery-grade lithium chemicals. So, it's flattering that it's EBRD's first investment into the lithium space, but as I say, I don't think it's all that surprising.
We're seeing growing momentum in the EU, which you've touched on, regarding this project and the level of support. We've had key dignitaries visit site, we've had big announcements made, and this is another key milestone. Are you feeling the momentum building?
Absolutely, yeah. The momentum is definitely building, and it's building in line with the work we're doing on the project. So in the last quarter of this year, we'll get the full definitive feasibility study published, and I can see everything coming together at around about the same time, around about the right time, where we'll have funding solution for building the project. That'll involve offtake discussions, the completion of the definitive feasibility study and the permitting all coming together at the same time. We've got the attention of the key institutions in Europe. We will see the final Critical Raw Materials Act announced as well, and I believe that there'll be significant positives for the project and other projects like ours from the Critical Raw Materials Act. So it just feels like towards the end of this year it is all going to come together.
Touching on offtake, clearly nothing's been announced, but discussions must be underway. How are you feeling about those discussions?
Feeling very comfortable with the discussions. I mean, some people might think we've been a little slow on offtake. In part that has been deliberate, but also in part it's driven by the whole European view on putting these things together, and it's emerging as very much a collaborative approach that involves the financiers, the governments and the off-takers all together. So I think it will be a whole package that comes together at the same time.
Macro environment strong, you've secured the land, you've secured support both in country and in the wider EU environment. Exciting times ahead for EMH and its shareholders in the development of this project. Keith, thanks for your time.
Thank you, David.